Chapter 1, The Red Banner. At 9:47 a.m. on a Tuesday, an email notification bearing a red banner from HR appeared on my screen, signaling the need for executive review as per company protocol regarding candidate Natalie Brennan. I nearly discarded it without inspection, given our ongoing merger with a mid-sized cybersecurity firm and the suffocating tightness of my schedule. With procedures in place for everything now, from nepotism concerns to conflict checks, I seldom dealt with such matters myself. However, this one, forwarded directly to my private inbox by Annika, my executive assistant, was tagged with a straightforward subject line: "Requires your attention." Upon opening it, the name struck me like a sudden icy shower: Natalie Brennan, now using her maiden name. The application was for a mid-level marketing coordinator position, with an annual salary range of $62,000. Typically, such roles were filled by new graduates or those considering a slower pace. I sank into my leather chair, the quiet of my office now oppressive. 5 years ago, Natalie had departed from our marriage with $300,000 in cash, the house we'd refurbished together, and 60% ownership of the digital consulting firm we'd established. She had dealt me a blow to the eye in the courthouse parking lot and warned me that I would be fortunate to run a coffee shop after she was done with me. I perused her resume. It was a tale of woe on paper: 3 jobs spanning 4 years, a 9-month void, an unsuccessful endeavor to establish her own agency that collapsed after 18 months, references from people unknown to me. Under motivation for job application, she had penned, "In search of a secure position with a forward-thinking company to utilize my decade-long strategic marketing expertise." A decade. That encompassed the 7 years we'd been together. The years where I constructed the backbone of our old company, while she cultivated client relationships. For years, I worked until 4 a.m., coding tailor-made tools for her to sell exclusive tech to investors. Now she was claiming those years as entirely hers. Annika knocked and entered with the tablet pressed against her, her face guarded. "Ah, the Brennan application," she murmured. "I marked it because I recognized the name from your old business dissolution documents stored in the archive. I didn't think HR should handle this one without context. Annika had worked for me for 3 years. She knew I was divorced, knew about my failed business, but she wasn't aware of its brutal reality. I kept that hidden, allowing people to believe I was simply a workaholic driven by privacy. "Send her a standard invitation for an interview," I instructed. My voice remained steady, unexpectedly so. "Thursday, 2 p.m., conference room B." Annika's eyebrows arched. "You want to interview her personally for a coordinator position?" "I'm performing a random evaluation of our recruitment system this quarter," I falsely stated. "She serves as an example. Arrange it. Does she know?" Annika inquired. "About the company ownership?" "No," I responded, casting a glance at the About You's page on my secondary monitor. During a security review last year, we had removed the executive biographies, a privacy measure I advocated for. No photographs, only titles. To the public, Pinnacle Solutions Group was an impersonal corporate entity. Let's maintain this image until she steps through that door. Chapter 2. The Architect of Destruction. After Annika departed, I accessed the encrypted file on the secure server labeled Dissolution Documents 2019. I hadn't reviewed it in 4 years. Contained within were the divorce papers, the business separation agreement, email exchanges with lawyers, and a specific document I had kept, the transcript of the text messages Natalie sent me the day the divorce was finalized. "You're weak, Gregory. You always were. You constructed that company, whereas I relied on your concepts. Attempting to rival you would lead to defeat in whatever ventures you undertake without your guidance. Enjoy the life you construct in the rental basements you inhabit." For 6 months following her sending it, I revisited this statement countless times. I no longer read it because the pain had transformed into fuel. The marriage dissolved due to a cascade of minor revelations. Natalie's extended hours at work, 3 nights a week, often with her business partner, Miles. Her new habit of taking calls in the car. For a long time, I suspected something, but convinced myself that the pressure of expanding our agency was making me paranoid about seeing ghosts. The evidence didn't emerge from a private investigator. Instead, it originated from our accountant, Trent. On a Saturday morning, Trent had phoned while Natalie was at a networking event with Miles. His voice trembled. "Gregory, I want to share something with you that can't be discussed over the phone." Upon reaching Trent's office, I found he had printed out transaction logs for 6 months. Transfers I hadn't authorized and payments to non-existent vendors, consulting fees to Delaware-registered shell companies. unfulfilled equipment purchases, all approved by Natalie using her position as the majority stakeholder, were highlighted in yellow. Trent informed me that Natalie had been transferring funds from the operating account for 8 months, channeling them into a holding company, with Miles listed as a co-signatory. The total sum was $83,000, not enough to cause bankruptcy, but substantial enough to disrupt our cash flow. When I confronted Natalie that evening, she didn't deny it, neither did she cry or apologize. Instead, she sat on our white leather couch with a glass of Pinot Grigio, seeming uninterested. Her words were, "I was protecting my interests. Gregory, you're a good man, but lack the ruthless business acumen that Miles possesses. It's him who's been keeping this firm afloat, and I needed to secure funds for our next venture." You said, the truth hitting me hard. I diverted resources. "Before you act morally superior, look at Section 7, Clause 3 of our prenuptial agreement," you continued. "As it stands, I hold sole authority over financial decisions regarding the business. I'm acting within my legal rights. 6 years ago, I signed that prenup, love-blinded and trusting you when you said it was for your father's peace. It turned out to be a trap, set from the beginning. You filed for divorce 3 days after, portraying me as abusive, controlling, and unprofessional in court. Since you controlled the finances, I lost immediate access to the company accounts, leaving me unable to hire a competent lawyer. In the end, you took the house, the client list, and the company. Received a check worth $97,000 as my equity share and a 1-bedroom apartment in an undesirable neighborhood. Chapter 3, The Silent Build. I chose not to rebuild in the same city. Instead, I relocated 4 hours north to a place where Hartley Digital was unknown. I accepted a temporary role in back-end development for a logistics company, working long hours of 18 per day and saving every extra cent over rent and ramen. 6 months later, I secured a side contract for redesigning a hospital's patient portal, delivering it 2 weeks ahead of schedule. This led to referrals from 3 other networks. I opted against an eye-catching name for my new venture. Instead, I christened it Pinnacle Solutions Group, choosing a name that conveyed stability and professionalism over flashiness. I subsequently employed 2 developers, followed by a project manager, then a salesperson. My experiences expanded to include understanding profit margins, contract negotiations, and client retention, the business aspect, which some doubted my capacity to grasp. However, they were incorrect about my aptitude for learning. Initially reliant on my previous connections, I proved capable of expanding my knowledge base. I became adept at operating without a fixed base or supervision. I discarded unprofitable clients. I safeguarded my intellectual property. In the second year, we secured a state education contract worth $300,000. The third year saw our foray into cybersecurity. By the fourth year, we had branches in 3 cities and annual revenue surpassing $9 million. I maintained a low profile. I refrained from posting on Instagram or LinkedIn, with my profile picture being the company logo. I turned invisible. Occasionally, I overheard whispers. I learned that Natalie had rebranded her old company. I also heard she and Miles had tied the knot and were causing a stir in the market. However, examining the resume on my screen suggested that the market may have outmaneuvered them instead. The 4th chapter, The Encounter, unfolded on Thursday under a clear October sky. I spent the morning delving into the rest of Natalie's background check. Her company with Miles, Vector Creative, which filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy 2 years ago. Previously held positions were temporary, one ending due to performance concerns. Donning my custom-made charcoal suit crafted from Italian wool, I presented an imposing figure, 20 pounds heavier than the man she divorced. At 1:08 p.m., I accessed the lobby security footage on my phone. There she was, visibly older and thinner, a result of stress rather than exercise. She wore a familiar suit purchased during our second marriage year. It was worn at the cuffs. Seated stiffly in the waiting room chair, she appeared to be rehearsing responses. I waited until precisely 2:00 p.m. Heading towards conference room B, I took a deep breath and opened the door. She stood by the window, gazing at the skyline. Upon my entrance, her practiced smile vanished, replaced by a startled, disorienting expression. Her mouth gaped open, but no words emerged. She rapidly blinked, seeming to attempt to dispel a delusion. "Hello, Natalie," I calmly stated. "Take a seat, please." I moved to the head of the table and sat down, positioning her file in front of me. I forewent a handshake. "Are you Gregory?" Her voice was soft, strained. What are you doing here?" She clutched the chair's back for support. "I didn't realize the job listing just said PSG Holdings. The website had no names. We prioritize privacy here," I remarked. Something I learned the hard way. She eyed the door, assessing her escape route. Her desire to flee was evident in her tense muscles. Please remain seated, I repeated, my voice dropping an octave, authoritative yet composed. You're here for an interview, let's proceed with the interview. She reluctantly sank into the chair, her fingers tightly grasping her leather portfolio until they turned white. She resembled a war prisoner. I can't accept this, she mumbled. Is it true you own this place? She waved vaguely at the expansive glass walls, the busy office beyond. This is all, I replied, answering a question she hadn't verbally posed. Entire floor acquisition, I explained. Annual revenue of 9 million, 73 employees, 0 debt. I left the figures suspended like smoke. Chapter 5, The Autopsy. I wish to maintain a professional atmosphere, I continued, flipping open her file. Today's meeting is about assessing your qualifications for the marketing coordinator position. Your resume indicates significant job changes since 2019. Could you outline your career trajectory? The year of our separation. I didn't overtly bring it up, but she winced. She swallowed hard, attempting to conjure her former pride. It was absent. Since Hartley Digital, I founded Vector Creative. We started off strongly. I inquired, already knowing the answer. What became of Vector? I asked. She stared at the polished mahogany table. We overextended our borrowing. Is that the complete truth? I inquired. Why did you depart from Vector 2 years prior to its dissolution, Natalie? This question seemed to shatter her composed exterior. Disagreements with management, she responded tersely. Were these disputes with your partner, Miles? Her expression changed at the mention of his name. She laughed bitterly. Miles, she spat out the name contemptuously. It appears Miles considered himself the visionary. He exploited the same operating agreement which you drafted to oust you. He activated a buyout clause when the valuation was low. He secured the company, the clients, and the intellectual property. A sense of cold, dark triumph filled me. Did he do to you what you did to me? She didn't respond. Instead, her gaze remained fixed on me, her eyes glazed over. Over 3 years, she's lost 3 jobs, terminated from one, laid off from another. Why can't you maintain a job, Natalie? It's been troublesome, she murmured softly. The industry whispers about Miles slandering you to the major agencies. I've been tainted. I'm blacklisted. Karma is ruthless, I remarked tersely. I require employment, Gregory, she said, her tone trembling. The facade of professionalism vanished. She was now a desperate woman in a worn-out suit. Rent is due in 3 days. My car payments are 2 months overdue. This week alone, I've applied to 100 jobs. I didn't realize it was you, she said. If I had, I wouldn't have come. The reason being I know you despise me, she admitted. Because I wrecked your life, you think so, I corrected her. There's a distinction. I leaned back, interlacing my fingers, and scrutinized her. You told me I was feeble, I murmured. You asserted that without you to correct my errors, I'd never achieve anything. You swindled my funds, my residence, and my profession. She sobbed. I am aware. A solitary tear slid down her makeup. For 5 years, I've been waiting for the chance to prove you wrong, I stated, fantasizing about it. Buying your company, evicting you, suing you into nothingness. She shut her eyes, awaiting the blow. In the 6th chapter, I offered the 3rd alternative. Now, looking at you, I stated. Suddenly, it struck me. Her eyes flickered open. You're not worth the court costs, I clarified. From my breast pocket, I drew out a business card. It was a thick, cream-colored one with gold engravings. I scribbled 3 names on its reverse side using a pen. I moved the card towards her across the table. She looked at it, bewildered. What's this? I'm not hiring you, she replied. You don't align with Pinnacle's culture. My team thrives on trust, and that seems lost on you. However, I won't ruin you. I pointed to the names on the card. Here are 3 local marketing agencies specialized in entry-level positions for nonprofit organizations. They aren't glamorous and the pay isn't impressive, yet their owners owe me a favor. If you contact them and mention my name, they'll consider your application. She grasped the card shakily. Are you actually helping me? I retorted, I'm providing you with referrals. She understood it wasn't an act of forgiveness. She realized I don't care enough to harm her. Her words resonated like a blow. In her eyes, I saw recognition that she was no longer the antagonist in my narrative, not even a competitor, merely an insignificant detail, a footnote. Gregory, she began hesitantly, thank you, I don't deserve this. You're correct, I conceded. I rose from my seat. This isn't for your sake, but mine. I no longer wish to bear the burden of hatred towards you. It's detrimental to business. I opened the door and waited. Improve yourself next time, Natalie, and don't reapply here. Chapter 7. The perspective from above. Without another word, she left the conference room, tightly gripping that business card as if it were a lifeline. I watched her approach the elevator, her shoulders slumped. She seemed smaller than ever before. Annika found me 10 minutes later by the window, watching the traffic 4 stories below. I suggested she seek help elsewhere, I mentioned. That was thoughtful of you, Annika responded, pondering. It wasn't an act of kindness, I retorted. It was apathy. A few weeks later, I learned through rumors that Natalie had secured a job at the second organization on my list. It was a junior position. She now reported to a manager who was 10 years her junior, earning only half of what she previously did. She was secure, but she was humbled. Miles's business collapsed after 6 months. During the liquidation sale, I acquired his client list for a minimal amount. I didn't communicate with him directly. My lawyers handled it. Natalie had warned me I wouldn't recover. She was correct. I did not regain my former self. I destroyed him, and in his place I constructed something superior. Seated in my office, overlooking the city I dominated, I finally removed the folder labeled dissolution documents. I moved it to the trash and emptied it. I didn't have time to reflect on those who fell by the wayside.